Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to chat through My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. Now this book was actually published about 8 years ago and I did read it at the time but fell through the cracks and I didn't share the review with you. So I'm back to right that wrong. I reread it and I'm here to chat through it with you. Now I love this book. However, I also love Ottessa Moshfegh, but she is not a writer for everyone. She is of course the author of the fantastic Eileen, This, and a collection of short stories, and Lapvona. She spends her time examining extremely dark characters in extremely grim places and doesn't necessarily see them as figures of pity, but figures that are worth, if not celebrating, but platforming, examining, and spending time with. She is someone who revels and excels at taking us to dark places and illuminating them. That might not be for everyone, but it is for me. And My Year of Rest and Relaxation is a great example of this. In this book, we are with an extremely privileged, unlikable protagonist, the narrator, who is a very attractive, very slim, very perfect, very clever, recent Columbia graduate living on the Upper East Side in an apartment that is completely paid for by a huge inheritance. She is someone that ticks all the boxes and has all the privilege. She's also someone who is extremely unsure of who she is and where she is. And this book is about her pursuit of putting herself voluntarily into a drug-induced coma for a year because she just can't take this world anymore. And it's set into the New York in 2000, so it's set against a city that lots of people would love to live in, would love to revel in. And instead, Ottessa gives us an unlikable protagonist and demands that we stay with her as she tries to fulfill her need to be unconscious for months and months and months. Now, rather than see this as something to be pitied or horrified by, Ottessa actually platforms her narrator by making this a sort of an act of defiance, an act of autonomy, one where she's beginning to own what she wants to do and sees this as a positive act that she wants to put this herself into a coma because it will have beneficial impact on her and how she feels about living. Very unlikable protagonist, but then this is what Ottessa does perfectly. She takes this character and by staying with her, she begins to peel back the layers. And if not necessarily seeing her as a figure of sympathy, we begin to understand the narrator, understand her choices, and actually at times even root for her. This is a book with some rather gallows humor and dark humor as well. Supporting the narrator through her pursuit of getting into this voluntary coma is probably the worst psychiatrist you'll ever read in literature. A very unethical psychiatrist who will literally give the narrator every pill that she can get her hands on, that she can charge for. But this is also a very clever book because it also centers around the narrator's couple of very few relationships that she has with her partner of sorts, a kind of absentee boyfriend, and a young woman, Reva, who is desperate to be the narrator's best friend but is treated terribly by the narrator. Through them and through the narrator's relationship with them, we also begin to understand what the narrator is looking for by seeing this pursuit of just some time out, some literal time out, that actually she could turn her life around and be a better person. It is a really interesting perspective and a really interesting viewpoint. Ottessa's writing is extremely contemporary. It's really fresh. It's really vivid. It is really colloquial and brilliant. It reminded me a lot of Elizabeth Wurtzel's Prozac Nation, but instead where Prozac Nation was a very embittered, angry piece of work, My Year of Rest and Relaxation seems to be the act of someone who's incredibly emancipated and very self-aware. So I really like how this narrator there is complexity revealed about the main character as we progress with them, what their motivation is, what they're battling with, but also this is very much a narrator who is coming at this seemingly level-headed, with very clear-eyed objectives. And therefore, like I say, this feels like an act of empowerment. I really enjoyed My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Set in New York in 2000, it obviously has a bit of forewarning about 9/11 on the horizon as well, which is deliberately infused throughout this book. And therefore, it also feels like the end of an era. This feels like the this person is wanting to go in a coma at a time when New York, though it doesn't realize yet, is also coming to a sense of profound crisis in itself. It is a brilliant book. Like I said, it was published 8 years ago. It stands up exceptionally well. I adore Ottessa Moshfegh, but I appreciate she's not a writer for everyone. But if you like Eileen, if you love that kind of darkness, that kind of gallows humor, really spending time with selfish, self-righteous individuals that actually start to then earn your trust and your empathy, then Ottessa Moshfegh is for you, and My Year of Rest and Relaxation is definitely for you. I loved this book, but of course I did. It's my kind of thing.